guys, Horace here, and today I'm back with another video. Today we're going to be talking about houses, and very specifically about how to take your houses from looking like this to looking like this. It's very important to basically understand some fundamentals about houses to make them look way, way better, and you can take a lot of these tips and just make your houses look just 10 times better in just a few simple steps. When it comes to making houses look better, a lot of the time you're going to just be presented with little tips like extending your roof, adding wood planks to the side to give it a little bit of depth, etc., etc. I'm sure you've already seen that. But now I'm going to tell you a much better way on how to improve your house. Basically, one of the main reasons why this doesn't look good is because there's no shape to it. It's just a boring box with a triangle on top. So instead of, trying to give you tips on how to detail, we're going to talk about shape instead. Shape is super, super important and makes your build look so, so much better. And all shape is generally, at the start at least, is just making a bunch of boxes. They don't really need to be all that fancy. In fact, they can literally just be wooden boxes. Generally, I like to have a center point, but is not absolutely required. So let's just make a few shapes here. I'm going to use World Edit because that's just simply faster for me. Walls 5, just make a few shapes here and there. Doesn't really have to be anything fancy. And let's actually make it pretty tall because I like tall houses. Tall houses are a lot of fun to make. In fact, let's make this a little shorter so that we got a nice stair step effect where we got our low part, our next part, and so on. All right, now that we kind of got our shape figured out, and can basically be anything random, and it doesn't really matter how your boxes are going to look. Just try to make sure that there's a center point, and if there's not, you can basically just move them or extend them. Generally, I like to extend them because generally I like really, really big houses, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is too big. Well, unfortunately, I don't like small houses because they're kind of a pain to make. When you're talking about houses, if you make them bigger, they're easier to do. I know that sounds genuinely crazy. It does take a little bit longer to build them, but they do look better than small, tiny houses. Now that we officially have our shape figured out and it is basically where we want it, now we're going to talk about details. And details are what make houses houses. But let's first talk about not using oak planks. Yes, it's a very easy starter block, but generally we want to avoid it. Now I'm going to switch this to a block that's a little bit nicer. I love diamond block. I think it just gives that perfect aesthetic. I'm kidding. It is just a placeholder block. But it generally, I like doing it, especially when you're in creative and you have World Edit and you're able to replace. Generally, just having that template is generally better. But we're kind of taking the house that we originally started with and just expanding it and then transforming it into something that we all really just enjoy. All right, now that we have some shapes, let's actually start detailing a little bit. Generally, what I like to do is I like to give just a little bit of structure to the build by adding some gold blocks and other little minor details that are full blocks. So I'm not going in to the full detailing yet. You can really do this a lot faster if you simply just set 41. But of course, you don't have to do that if you don't have World Edit, which is something I would highly recommend learning how to do. But yeah, so for the most part, we're just going to give a little bit of minor detailing here and there. That's generally full blocks so that you can get an idea of kind of what we're looking at when it comes to somewhat of the final product. And a lot of the time when you have videos on YouTube, they're going to tell you to basically make your pillars, your support pillars, out one block. Generally, that's true, and you can do that. But I also like sometimes just detailing on the same block because if you do it right, you won't lose that much detail. When it comes to roofs, they're actually probably the most difficult thing when it comes to building houses. The shape is actually rather easy to get and rather easy to understand when you're a new builder of houses, which is a little weird way to say that, but it is actually true. The roof is by far the thing that I think most people struggle with the absolute most. It's what I struggled with the absolute most. It is an incredibly difficult thing to do. Now, something that I always suggest doing is giving a little bit of detailing to the roof. And a lot of the time, it can be fairly simple detailing that doesn't need to look just absolutely gorgeous most of the time. Because if you do it right, that simplistic design will give you all of the detailing that you actually need. I'm just going to do from simple detailing like that. It really doesn't take too long and it's fairly easy to do. And then basically, something I also like doing is adding details into the roof. So instead of just having, your line of your detailing and then just having your roof just continue to go up just like that, generally what I'll do is I'll actually put a bit of detailing into the roof to just give it that little extra step that I really like. And it's something that I've been starting to do with more and more of my houses as I've been building more and more. And then just a simple design, generally what I'll do is I'll put some stairs to kind of elevate it a little bit, and then to give it a little bit of design, we do it like that. And then a simple design for the roof. It really doesn't, it's not much, but it does add a huge amount of stuff. Sometimes I add trap doors and other things like that, and you can really bring out your roof, and it's not as hard as most people might think it is, to just get some simple roof designs that just aren't as hard. And practicing your roof designs is really, really important. So finding as many designs and then just practicing on boxes, not worrying about the details below, because once you get those roofs down, the detailing on the houses are so much easier. Just a little tip that can speed you up. If you run into a perfect square, if it's a 3 by 3, a 5 by 5, a 7 by 7, etc., you can basically just do 25% of it, and then you can basically rotate it and paste it over and over, and you have to do a little bit less work. Now that the house roofs are done, I do generally like adding a little bit of extra detail on the highest peak, which is generally how I do most of my bigger houses. I generally just like adding a little bit of detail. It doesn't really actually have to be much. It's something a little extra detail to kind of signify that this is the top of the house. Super simple and super easy, just like that. Really does not take much. It's just a little extra detailing that you can do to make your house look just a little bit better. Let's talk about house detailing now. Now, unfortunately, when it comes to house detailing, it is actually rather frustrating because I can't encompass every single tip and thing about house detailing, because not all houses are equal a lot of the time, because there's so many different styles when it comes to modern or medieval and sci-fi. It's just there's so much encompassing the generalization of detailing and design. But hopefully, by watching me do this house, you'll hopefully get some ideas for your own style of house, because there are a lot of things that I see people mess up on. Okay, let's talk about palettes. So, something that a lot of people do, and I think that is generally a mistake, is that they make their walls a single block. You can get away with this when it comes to like desert houses and stuff like that, but for the most part, you're going to want to have a bit more variety in your build. So let's just start out with taking the first two blocks out and basically making it into a foundation by just making it and replacing it with some 45, which is basically just bricks. It's super easy, super simple. And then, of course, we gotta select the entire thing, and then we can kind of give the entire thing a complete makeover. So 57 is going to be 172, which is just hardened clay. I know it's technically terracotta now, but I don't really care because I'm a sucker for old things. And then I'm just going to do stripped jungle wood, because this is a jungle-y vibe thing. Now, you're probably sitting here acting like I'm a little crazy because I don't have any barrier between my foundation and my starting. Now you can extend this out. You can even like go all the way around. You can even add a little bit of trim to this. This is probably the most common thing that I do. I've been trying to kind of get away with that, or I'm trying to get away from that a little bit. But you can do this if you want a little bit of a trim. You can also use slabs and stuff like that. Which is probably the most common thing I use. You can even put like trapdoors, and you can kind of make it look a little bit better, but which is what I'm going to be doing for this house. Now, with that done, you can kind of see what this will look like. If you don't like it, that's totally fine. Now, I do want to show you another option. And that option is patios. I think it's an option that a lot of people miss out when they're building their houses because, to be honest, I didn't really think about using patios to kind of fill up space either. But I do really genuinely think that it's a great option. You could add some really easy overhangs with trap doors or even campfires. Campfires are a fantastic option for overhangs due to their, well, like, I don't know, texture, nature. It genuinely does look like a overhang. Of course, you have to place them, and then of course you have to put them out. But with that little extra work, you can make yourself a really great, fantastic overhang in a really short amount of time with, maybe just a few supports or something like that. It really doesn't take as much time as you might think. I'd probably actually just do like some supports like that. Super simple, super easy. Of course, you can go with the much more detailed and sophisticated porch like this. I really like this design, honestly. It's simple, but it really does the job. Now let's talk about windows. There is a lot of different options that you can do for windows. There's just so much that you can do with windows that a lot of people just don't understand where you go with windows. A lot of the time, I just go with simple windows. Generally, they look better than super hyper complicated ones with lots of, different things on the outsides and things like that. Generally, I just go with a simple, nice window. They generally look a little bit better, and you'll allow yourself to breathe just a little bit more without having to do so much detailing on every little thing. Generally, when it comes to two wide windows, this is probably my favorite window type due to the fact that I can make my little arch just like that. And then I can put some trap doors in behind it and give it a little bit of a windowed look just like that. Something that you can also do is you can give it a little bit of a window cell. Sometimes what I'll even do is I'll put myself some podzol, and I'll even use some spruce trap doors or other trap doors or whatnot to kind of give it a even better look with a few little plants just like that. One of the biggest suggestions I can make when you're trying to get better at making houses is by both looking at Minecraft houses that other people have built and real life houses that people have built them too, but you know what I mean. Real life houses can give you a really good idea. Now, most of them are pretty ugly and yuck, but you can get some great concepts from it and learn a lot of things, especially when it comes to detailing, paying attention to these details and seeing how you can recreate them in Minecraft. For example, if you want a shuttered window, you can basically use your trapdoors to kind of give that effect. It's really simple and really fun. I really, really like this example. Sometimes you can even just put it on one side and it'll kind of give the same effect. You can do it on two. There's just so much variation to it. You don't even have to put it on every single window. Some windows could be shuttered, some not. It is really up to you to decide what you want to do with it. And that's one of the amazing things about houses is that there's so much variety in houses. But paying attention to details and learning how to make different details will immensely help you in your process, because once you get the walls down, then it's really all about the detailing, and detailing is the hardest part. Let's talk about wall detailing. I probably should have covered this a little bit earlier in the video, but that's fine. Wall detailing is basically anything that adds to the detail of the build, but does not add really all that much functionality, like a window or a door, a roof, a chimney, etc. It's basically just a non-functional detail. Stuff like little buttons on your wall, fence gates with some fence posts around to kind of give a little bit more detail. Oftentimes, I see some trap doors under these to give it just a little bit more detail. Generally, I don't like that because it gives a little bit too much space between the actual fence gate and the trap door, and it just looks a little weird to me because I just like my blocks being pretty snug into each other. Another thing that you can basically do is you can kind of indent your wall a little bit with another block. Generally, it'll work better with more similar blocks. You can even just make lines. But the most common thing I see when it comes to wall detailing is using a hashtag Perlin noise. So this is, of course, I'm going to be doing this with a command, but you can do this by hand too if you'd like. So replace 172 hashtag Perlin. Let's do like 9. And then let's do 172 and then 1. Something simple, a simple Perlin, maybe a little bit smaller than that. Let's do like 5, right? So you get a pretty simple Perlin noise to give just a little bit more noise to your build. Generally, you won't want to do too much. Sometimes you can just add a little bit more hardened clay to give it a little bit more pattern. So it's basically random patterns on your wall to kind of give it a little bit more variety. Now, this is good, but try not to overuse it, especially, this is one thing that's very, very important. Never just do the / replace command and then 1. I'm telling you, replace 172. I'm telling you, never do this. This looks awful. It doesn't represent what real buildings look like. And in Minecraft, it just does not look great. So when you use this, just make it in patches. If you're doing it by hand, make it in patches just like that. You can make it as random as you want, but I beg you, don't just randomly go around the entire wall placing things just because you can. Okay, let's move back to the foundations. I made a mistake when I was building this. Originally, I felt like the foundations were sufficient. Now, I don't think that anymore. Now, there are things that I added to make sure that those foundations looked good on some areas. Like, for example, this patio looks absolutely fantastic. In fact, I'll probably be doing something very similar on the back end once I have kind of get an idea of what I'm going to be doing back there. But right here, you can see it's just a little bit plain. Now, I could go with the easy option of just adding, I don't know, maybe a flower plot or something like that, or just put a garden, that would be simpler. But generally, you want to think about design as a problem solver. So if you can challenge yourself to come up with a more creative and more stylistic option, then often that's the one you want to go with instead of just the easy out option, which is unfortunately something I am guilty of many, many times over. So even just adding a very simple design to your foundation can really give it a little bit more just a little bit more variety. I know I've been using variety a lot, but it really does help make your house stand apart. Okay, the next part of this video might make people a little bit mad, but I do think it's something we need to talk about. It's over detailing. The reality is that when some people see a wall, they see a canvas, and instead of kind of respecting that canvas as something that needs to be preserved on some level, some people feel the need to just absolutely detail every square inch of every single block on this wall. No matter what, doesn't matter the wall, they feel the need to over detail it. And I understand that need, or that impulse, but the reality is it looks awful. I'm sorry, it just looks awful. There is never a time where you're gonna detail every single wall to the absolute max. Just because there's a wall there does not mean that you need 100 slabs, 100 stairs, and 100 trapdoors in that. That is not detailing. That's just spamming a bunch of blocks and then pretending that's detailing. Detailing is clean, more efficient, and you can make the builds look better without over detailing. I'm telling you this as someone who's been building for a very long time. And if you do over detail, I would highly suggest getting out of the habit. It is a hard habit to break. I understand. I've been there. We've all kind of been there. Any old builder who's been in the 2014, 2015 age of building knows that over detailing was the thing. But I'm telling you, it's not anymore. It does not look good. Okay, I'm not going to be using glass for this build, but for example's sake, never, ever, ever, ever do something like that. If you do want to use full blocks, then you're going to automatically indent them one to kind of give it a little bit of a nice effect. Generally, you'll also put a little bit of an indent either on the bottom or the top. Sometimes you can do both. But for the most part, if you're going to be doing it on the same block as the hole, never do that. I'm telling you, just use some glass panes. It'll look 10 times better. Generally, you can just have an indent. I'm telling you, you're going to get made fun of if you just use full blocks without the proper technique. So just use some plain glasses. It's easy. It's simple. Just use them. Of course, I am mostly kidding, so please don't cancel me on Twitter. This is Minecraft, so you can do whatever you would like. I just don't personally think that it looks very good. Let's talk about vines. Vines are one of the most annoying things to deal with when building. Now, they look absolutely fantastic, but there's a problem with them. They grow everywhere, and it's really hard to stop because you have to not only block them from building from the blocks that you don't want down, but also the blocks on the side, which is rather frustrating and annoying, and it just kind of gets everywhere. As you can see, I literally have to have a command just to get rid of them in time because being able to break them by hand is a frustrating and annoying process. The better alternative to this is just simply adding some leaves to your build, and done right, this can really add some really nice effects to your build. Generally, I'll put some azalea leaves. The other option is you can actually put some moss block in incorporation with those to give it a little bit more, I don't know, a little bit more solidity. I don't even know if that's a word, but we're going to leave it in there just so that you guys can make fun of me. So done right, leaves can look pretty good as vines. Generally, it's a fairly common thing for me to do, especially on the higher floors, because oftentimes I find people kind of evaluating the vines and feeling like they're just a little bit out of place. You can actually mix oak leaves and birch leaves and whatnot with azalea. I think it looks actually really, really nice. You can even add some little patterns like, oops, where's the azalea? Flowering azalea. As just a little bit more ambiance to your build. I think they can really add a lot to your build, but I'm telling you, just don't use the vine block because it's annoying and frustrating. For you World Edit users, there is a bit of an alternative to leaves, of course, and I am talking about basically changing a placeholder block into, let's say, 31 or 31.1. So that's grass. You can even change it into ferns if you like that better, but generally I just go with like a grass type. Large fern is actually another option that I really, really like because it's actually pretty bulky and actually gives a pretty nice effect. When it comes to smokestacks, there is a few things that I have to say about them. I know, crazy smokestacks, right? But basically the old way to do it is using cobwebs. I don't really like that much anymore. It looks a little bit weird and doesn't really look like fog or smoke, should I say. I don't know why I said fog. But anyway, something that I really like to do to add just a little bit more variety to the smoke is by using some gray, light gray, and white glass. By basically just going up, I do have an auto clicker, so that's going to be a little bit faster, and then kind of coming back and destroying it a little bit just to give it a little nice fire effect, and it just looks a little bit better with the fade to it. And voila, the house is done. Now, I do have two things to say to you, and they are very important, so stick around for a little bit longer. Now, the number one is that no video, no guide on YouTube or anywhere else is ever going to be able to give you a quick hack to be able to allow you to build amazing creations right off the bat. So you are going to have to build with trial and error and just persistence, and try not to get demotivated if you don't like the build. Just keep trying. I promise, if you put in the work, I guarantee you will get results. Anyway, guys, The second thing that I have is that if you want to learn how to use these skills in a more advanced way, click the video on screen right now. It will send you to a video that will allow you to build way more houses way, way quicker. Anyway, guys, thank you all so much for watching. Hopefully you did enjoy. I hope this helped you as much as possible. I really did enjoy making this. Anyway, see you later. Peace.